afternoon, everyone. Today is the memorial of Pope St. Leo. Isn't this a wonderful feast day? This day in which we look to Pope St. Leo, who was an amazing preacher. People really flocked toward him and they listened to his words. Of course, he's the successor of St. Peter. And so when the Holy Father teaches about an issue, people do listen. And we have some great Holy Fathers. We have some great successors to Peter. And Pope Leo is one of them. That's why they named him Pope Leo the Great. And so today, when we celebrate at Mass, we heard that beautiful gospel from Matthew's account of Jesus speaking to his apostles, asking them, "Who do people say that I am?" Well, some say you're John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others one of the prophets. And he looked at them and he says, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus said, "Simon, son of Jonah, you will now be called Peter. For no flesh and blood told you this, but my heavenly Father. To you I entrust the keys of the kingdom. Whatsoever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatsoever you declare loosed on earth shall be loosed in heaven." The great gift of the papacy was given at Caesarea Philippi to Simon the fisherman, now called Peter, because Peter is another word for rock. And so Peter becomes the first pope. Peter is that foundation, the head of the band of the apostles, in which all must go to him and really find what the deposit of faith is all about. In other words, to teach with clarity, to teach the faith with clarity. Whatever you declare bind on earth shall be declared bound in heaven. Whatever you declare loosed on earth shall be loosed in heaven. I am entrusting to you, Peter, the keys of the kingdom of heaven. You know, what Jesus did at Caesarea Philippi is no easy thing, as far as, when I say easy thing, to be just tossed aside lightly. I'm talking about it as a nice, heavy, weighted responsibility that Peter has. Any time when there is a name change, whether it's the Old Testament or New Testament, our eyes should be widened, our ears should be well opened, and our hearts should receive that message with great joy, because Jesus is particularly saying something profound. The scriptures are speaking about a moment that is profound. God is breathing a powerful message to the world. Remember that when a name change happens. Now, let me just give you an understanding of a name change. That's why in the early church, if they had pagan names, they were baptized with a Christian name. Now, normally today, what do? We already named the baby, right? We already named the baby. But I have to say that as a priest, some of these names are not of our Christian tradition. We have to make sure that when we are naming children, they are taking the name of a saint or our Blessed Lady, Mary, Miriam, Marie, Rosemary, Anne Marie, a combination of saints, or a Christian virtue. It shouldn't be any name contrary to Christian tradition. We should always make sure of that. In fact, before they're even baptized, what name do you give your child? You can't just say Pluto. You can't say Stone. You can't say Rock. You could say Peter. You have to give a name that is not foreign to the Christian tradition. And so that's why even second names came into vogue. Second names came into vogue just in case if somebody wanted to add a name that was not particularly found in the collection of saints. So I'm just bringing to your attention about name change. Simon, son of Jonah, you will now be called Peter. So at the rite of baptism, it's beautiful when the priest or deacon asks the parents, what name do you give your child? And they state the name, the first full name. If it is a double baptismal name, like a first name and a middle name, then give the name Joseph Michael. Joseph, of course, after the foster father of Jesus. Michael after the Archangel Gabriel, after the Archangel Michael. Sorry, I said the Archangel Gabriel. I meant the Archangel Michael, right? So Joseph Michael, or whatever it is. But parents really need to foster a Catholic tradition, especially in the name. Now, I know when people, especially mothers, I'm not saying dads don't, but it's usually mothers who try to think of a name. And the father just says, okay. The mother usually does that, in all fairness. Not all the time. I'm not saying all the time, but I'm saying most of the time. But moms, you really need to be focused upon not just cute names from the Hallmark show or cute names that you saw by a flower, but you need to have a name that is conducive to our faith. To our faith. That's what we need to make sure of. And, you know, this way they have a role model to look toward. Right? Now, in the sacrament of confirmation, a name is given as well, or you could use your baptismal name. Why? Because baptism and confirmation are connected. Now, I'll give you an example. I was baptized Louis. My confirmation name is Paul. So everywhere you know this because you see my signature everywhere. Louis P. Bellopede. So I use both my baptismal name and my confirmation initial everywhere. It's become my signature because of the responsibility I know with those two sacraments that I look to those role models and they're attached to my life. St. Louis and St. Paul. St. Louis is the King of France, and St. Paul, the Apostle to the Gentiles. So, for whatever your name is, I think it's a beautiful act of faith. So it's the name change or an addition to the name. How beautiful, because of the responsibility that Christ gives us. So, when you hear the gospel from Matthew 16:18, and that is of the papacy, who do people say that I am? And everybody gives their answer. And he looks to Peter or Simon, and he says, who do people say that I am? Who do you say that I am? You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. It was a confession of faith. Peter's confession of faith, that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus says, no mere flesh and blood told you this. It was my Father who told you that answer. No one could have told you that. It was my Father who told you that, and therefore, Simon, you will no longer be Simon. You will now be known as Peter. And upon this rock, upon you, I will build my church. You will be the visible head of the church after I ascend back to my Father. You will be the visible head of the church. Whatever you declare bound on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever you declare loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Infallibility. What's infallibility? Infallibility for Peter and his successors is when we are declaring a statement of faith that is to be believed as revealed by God. It is when the church declares a statement of faith to believe by the whole world as revealed by God. Infallibility. In what areas? Well, simply in the areas of faith and morals. That is infallibility. Now, the last time the church spoke in an infallible way was on November the 1st, 1950, when it declared by Pope Pius XII the dogma of the Assumption of Mary into heaven, body and soul. Now, that does not mean that any time when the Pope speaks through an encyclical or through a teaching that he is talking as the vicar of Christ is not to be believed. It has not the weight of an infallible teaching like the Assumption. But let me just tell you that the infallible statements are not given every day. I just told you the last one was on November the 1st, 1950, on the dogma of the Assumption of Mary, body and soul into heaven. She did not undergo the corruption of the grave. That is to be believed by all the world. See, the Pope is not making infallible statements just for Catholics. I was telling the people at Mass, when the Pope speaks as the voice of Christ, it's not just for the Catholics. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's meant for the whole world. It's meant for the whole world. It's not just for this group. It's to teach the entire flock, the entire people of God. So it's important for us to know that, and it's important to us to understand what the name change was all about. Abram to Abraham, Saul to Paul. Do you know these name change, Simon to Peter? It's very important to understand that, because the mission is defined very clearly for that person. And for us as baptized believers, we have a mission now. As confirmed Catholics, we have a mission. Priesthood, Father Bellopede. Sometimes religious are given another name. Like I could be baptized Father Louis Bellopede, but my name in religion could be something like Father Jude Michael. Something totally different. Okay? So I want you to understand that about that name change that happened in Matthew 16:18. And then the whole understanding of infallibility, the binding and loosing, the giving of the keys to Peter and his successors. Very important. Pope Leo the Great was tremendous. Spoke with clarity, preached with conviction, taught with eloquence. That's why he was given the name the Great, and that's why he was given the name Doctor of the Church. Because no matter who he taught, what he said, from grade school kid to college professor, to housewife, to engineer, to priest, to theologian, to nun, to seminarian, everyone got it. Do you ever meet people like that? That they could teach and you could have a varied audience. Everyone gets it. Everyone takes it in. Well, when you can do that with the faith, the church gives you the title doctor. Like St. Therese of the Little Flower, doctor of the church. St. Catherine of Siena, doctor of the church. Pope Leo the Great, Doctor of the Church. St. Albert the Great, Doctor of the Church. So you have these titles, Doctors of the Church, because they spoke with perfect eloquence a lofty theology, but everyone could understand. It didn't matter who you were. It's like this third grader and this professor of physics. Like how? Like what? Yeah, they could get that message through. You know, they had brains to sell, but they also spoke with clarity, conviction, enthusiasm. So that's today's memorial is a great one. And when you read some of his, if you want to Google some of his homilies, take a moment just to reflect on that. I mean, when you're looking at the lives of the saints, make sure you look at some of their writings and some of the things that they have refuted by false heresies. You know, back in the day, people were having false teachings. That's what a heresy is. It's a false teaching. So when a pope or a bishop or a nun or even a woman or a layman makes a refutation of it, it's a powerful statement, because you have to back up in theology what is being taught falsely, a heresy. That's what a heresy means, a false teaching. How do you refute that? And how do you build your case up? Okay? So it's very important for us to know about that, learn about that. So I have a picture here of Blessed Michael McGivney. Do you know Father McGivney, everybody? He was the founder of the Knights of Columbus. There he is. He just recently became blessed. Soon, hopefully, God willing, Saint Michael McGivney. And wonderful group of Catholic men called the Knights of Columbus. I'm sure you heard of them. Well, they do fantastic work around the world. In fact, they are very, very much pro-life. Very much pro-life. And they do tremendous work in that area. They're really very charitable, their group. I don't know what the dues are, but they have the dues of these men. They go to different charitable organizations. I think, I'm not for certain, but I think Habitat for Humanity of building places back up that were destroyed by natural disasters, that's a lot of money that are sent for the good of humanity. So check out, men, the Knights of Columbus. If you're looking for a good, solid, lay Catholic organization to belong to, try the Knights of Columbus, founded by Blessed Michael McGivney. Great, great holy priest, great, blessed, and soon to be saint. Okay? Well, thank you everyone for joining us this day. Happy Pope St. Leo the Great Day.